Week 4 is here. The Cleveland Browns are on the road in San Diego to take on the Chargers. Welcome to the Doghouse, your inside look at the Cleveland Browns. I'm Andy McNamara alongside Browns insider from WKYC Sports in Cleveland, Matt Florjancic. We're trying to shake off the stink, the bad taste, the just glaring awfulness that was the Browns-Raiders game from last week. And Matt, it really seems like you could almost replay our Week 2 show leading up to the Titans game because it was the same feel. You just kind of felt let down, sad, dirty, just like, what is this team thinking?
Yep, pretty much. And I hope I'm proven wrong on Sunday, but I'm in a prove-it mode with this team. They have to show me to be a good product on the field to be a little bit more confident than what they've shown in the roller coaster ride that has been the first 3 games of the season.
Yeah, like at this point, you really have to. Like, there's Mike Pettine's and the team's mantra coming into the season was action, or was words into action. Was don't talk, do it. And all we've seen is talking. We've seen nothing on this defense that was talking smack. We saw missed tackles. We talked about it on Monday's show. Dante Whitner just shoulder tackling. Barkevius Mingo being a disaster. Joe Hayden playing with hurt ribs. And by the way, is he good to go? Is Joe Hayden going to play Sunday at this point?
He was practicing.
Okay.
He's been practicing, but Tashawn Gibson is not, and K'Wan Williams is yet to clear the concussion protocol. So those are two things that we have to worry about in terms of having a deep secondary. It's looking pretty thin right now. Tashawn expects to be on the field on Sunday, but we will see come game time whether or not he's actually able to go with the groin injury.
Here's the problem, too. With K'Wan Williams, coaching staff loves him. I think he's a great player. This guy, as a nickelback, has the potential to maybe even one day be a Pro Bowler. The problem is, Matt, he has now 3 concussions in less than 2 seasons. Like, this guy, the undrafted, great heart, but you cannot do it if you're on the sidelines. The best ability is availability, and that's why you rely on a guy who has a history of concussions, history of injuries, cannot stay on the field. Your first-round pick in Justin Gilbert is a non-factor, or even worse, in the loss to the Raiders, helped out the other team by bumping into your punt return guy, and all of a sudden you're left with Pierre Desir and Jordan Poyer? Like, that's kind of it.
I like both of those young men in spot situations, but I don't like them in starter roles. Just yet. I think Poyer's probably more apt to handle it because he's done it before. Desir hasn't had as much playing time on the field and in big game situations, so I think he'll come along great, but I don't know that it's going to happen right away. With regard to K'Wan, I mean, there's already questions in the media to Mike Pettin about whether or not they've had to sit K'Wan down and have the retirement discussion because 3 concussions in less than a year and a half is not good for anybody. And it might be a situation going back a few years with like Mike Furry, the wide receiver and safety that played for the Browns, where he was known as being a tough, hard-nosed player, but he was also known for picking up concussions, and finally the league shelved them and said, you're not healthy enough to play anymore. I think K'Wan's already about halfway down that road. And I think if he takes one more concussion, those conversations will have to be picked up in earnest because at that point it becomes a quality of life situation for the young man.
Sure.
And the last thing you want is a young man to, at age 24, to have such a debilitating future ahead of him.
Exactly, and especially he hasn't made the big money, right? So you want to have him be able to be in a state of mind to do other things. You're listening to The Doghouse, your inside look at the Cleveland Browns. Hit us up on Twitter at AndyMC81, at Matt Florjancic. You can email the show, thedoghousshow@gmail.com. Don't forget, get our free app for Android devices. Just type in The Doghouse on your Google Play Store. Get that free app there. You can subscribe on iTunes, find us on YouTube, and Spreaker.com as well. Our Twitter question today, our Doghouse Twitter question. We know Josh McCown's starting. We have to live with that this week, folks. I'm not happy about it, but we have to live with it. So our question is, though, if you had a choice in San Diego this Sunday, who gives you the best chance to win? I'm not talking about down the road. I'm talking about right now, Sunday. You got a quarterback who had the chance to have a full week of prep. Would you pick Johnny Manziel? Would you pick Josh McCown? We'll get to your answers in the Bark-Off a little bit later on in the show. At AndyMC81, at Matt Florjancic. Matt, looking at that right now, again, Josh McCown, Mike Pettin, they're going the super safe route and saying, we're going with the vet. If it's you, would you have gone back to Josh McCown or said, hey, Johnny's the only one who's actually won us a game this year. Go with the kid.
I want to see what Ray Farmer's first-round draft picks are really all about. At this point, there's the whole fail for Cardale notion. I want to see if we have to do that, or if I want to see if the kid can show some progress. You take away the 3 explosive plays he had the 2 explosive plays he had against the Titans, and he had a very average 6 of 13 performance against a Tennessee defense that wasn't very good. Let's see what he can actually do with another week of prep, if he can build on that and improve, or if he flatlines and stays the same. We have to get something out of first-round draft picks. This team is allergic to them for some reason, and we have to change that. We cannot sit there and have any more first-round draft picks be a complete bust. Cameron Irving gets on the field only when they need an extra lineman in goal line situations, and that didn't work out very well against the Raiders last week. And you look at Danny Shelton, he comes off the field on third downs, and Justin Gilbert is an absolute disaster of a first-round draft pick and likely will not be on this team next year. You got to get something out of a first-round draft pick, and you might as well go with Manziel because at this point, you're not losing anything. There's not that big of a drop-off in terms of talent, and by the way, the 36-year-old quarterback isn't going to be your future anyway, so at this point, he's your stopgap until you can bring along another quarterback. Why not see what the kid's got? At least if you lose, you know what you got in him, rather than having to go through another off season of saying, well, we don't know what we've got in Johnny yet. Well, Teddy Bridgewater's playing for the Vikings. Derek Carr's playing for the Oakland Raiders. Blake Bortles is playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. All guys that were taken in the same class are playing, and your guy isn't.
Matt Florjancic going with Johnny Manziel. Didn't think I'd see the day. Love it. Love it, Matt. And I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, buddy. Because it goes down to exactly that. Do we want to be in a situation come draft time? Well, Johnny played only 4 games, and we're not quite sure yet. So then it becomes a debate. Do you draft a guy? Then if you do draft somebody, well, where do you draft him? And then you bring in a draft pick. Okay, do you need to sign another veteran or keep Josh McCown? Find out right now, because the ceiling on Johnny is higher than it is on Josh McCown. It is endless. Now, the bottoming out might be way lower too. It is a risk, and coaches instinctively do not like risks for the most part. Mike Pettin is a conservative guy. But the problem is going to be you're not going conservative with a proven veteran winner. You're going the Jake Delhomme route from 2010. You're going with Josh McCown, who, by the way, people criticize Johnny for fumbling. McCown has fumbled it too, and he's made some bonehead plays as a 36-year-old veteran. So I'd rather see bonehead plays from a guy with the athleticism of Johnny Manziel, who put up those big plays against Travis Benjamin. You say if you take those away, but Matt, I don't think we can take those away because that's part of Johnny's game. He is a big-time playmaker or has the potential to do that. And I would much rather see a couple of big bombs and lead to a win and maybe some ups and downs in between, but that you have a guy who can actually win than Josh McCown, who's going to dink and dunk his way into absolutely nothing and then underthrow a very a great position with Travis Benjamin at the end zone, underthrow it for a pick. Johnny doesn't underthrow that ball. I say go with him. But if Penn is going to live and die, like Matt, do you see? Could they go if McCown stays healthy and they keep losing? Could they just keep riding him? Like could they take him for most of the season here?
I don't see how, but it won't be the first time that I questioned a quarterback decision and had it turn out, the way I expected it. And just going back, even when they started Brady Quinn, when they were force-feeding Brady Quinn because he was a first-round draft pick, and The guy ahead of him was a sixth-rounder, who, by the way, was coming off of a pretty good Pro Bowl season, I might add.
I loved Derek Anderson after that year, yeah.
The funny thing with DA was, you knew it was going to get somewhere. You just didn't know if it was going to be in the receiver's hands or in Lake Erie. But he had that big play potential. He could get the ball down the field. And that's pretty much what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. You think Manziel can get the ball down the field, and McCown, the play calling is completely different, and they say it's not, but it is. And everybody can see it. It's just two completely different styles of play.
Well, totally.
And you're right, you can't take away the big plays. But when you look at it, there were a lot of 3-and-outs between the set of big plays. He's not going to hit a home run every time.
No.
So you have to deal with the walks and the strikeouts and the singles in order to lead up to that next home run. And I think fans are willing to see that because, A, they think it's a more exciting brand of football, and B, they're just sick of watching 36-year-old veterans cash paychecks.
Oh, yeah.
And not to say it's Josh McCown's just cashing a paycheck. At least he's trying, which is more than I can say for quite a few other guys on this franchise right now.
He's not Dwayne Boweing it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the talk in sports radio in Cleveland right now is that Dwayne Bowe will be cut immediately upon Ray Farmer's return. I don't see that as being any sort of a possibility because Ray Farmer is the reason why Dwayne Bowe is here. And he's not going to admit yet another mistake and pay someone $10 million to go away when they could have had Terrell Pryor on this roster, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about working a project and can't wait for, returns. I guess you can if you're paying someone $10 million almost and you want to get your money's worth out of them. But if you're, just a guy that has talent, they're not going to work with you.
Like, is there a worse friend than Dwayne Bowe to Ray Farmer? The dude does you a solid, gets you $9 million, and you do nothing to thank him. If he was out there at least playing and gave the appearance of trying and was struggling or whatever, at least you have a chance. This guy is just mailing it in. If he does get cut, Matt, then then Jimmy Haslam, owner of the Browns, needs to pull Ray Farmer and say, "Hey, buddy, you owe me $9 million. How are we getting that back? Thanks. How are you giving me the $9 million that you wasted, you took away, and gave to this guy who has given absolutely nothing to this team?" It's and Matt, I was at the game last week. It was boring with Josh McCown. Like it was painful to watch. At the end, yeah, they teased us a little bit, and you had the comeback, and that's what the coaches are kind of hanging their hat on. But we have to remember too, a lot of that was because of Oakland was easing up on pressure because they had such a big lead, right? It
was painful in a lot of ways. I mean, the offensive line and the defensive backfield, they've talked themselves up to being so great and so awesome and one of the top units at their position in the NFL, and they have underwhelmed. I think that's actually an understatement. They're just not fun to watch, and I think all of that kind of falls on Josh's shoulders at some level because he is the quarterback, and you always take too much blame or get too much credit. But let's hand the blame around is that nobody's playing well around him either. And truthfully, even when Johnny's the quarterback, the running game still isn't playing well. The running game is non-existent right now. And when you're relying on quarterbacks and wide receivers to make plays, you can't make 50 plays in a game. And he threw it 49 times and did the best he could over almost 350 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. He did some things right, but
sure.
He can't be relied on to do it all.
That's
and
not
I
why
think
he's here.
That's this team's biggest problem right now is we're seeing just how devoid of playmakers this team really is. And quite frankly, it's atrocious and it's scary to think that this is only week 3 and, there are these things called injuries that pop up. And if you lose a Travis Benjamin or if you lose a Brian Hartline or if you lose a Gary Barnidge, old Mother Hubbard's cupboard's pretty darn bare after that.
I'm going to put in my resume to Ray Farmer because I'm a 5'10" former receiver, so I can step right in. I fit the mold, Matt.
I
get
thought
right
you were
in
going
there.
to put it in for Jimmy Haslam to replace Ray Farmer.
Oh, I take
you had
that
me
paycheck.
going there for a second. I wasn't sure how you were going with that one.
I don't have any experience as a GM either. Neither did Ray. Why not? Right?